8:56. 7:56.
7:57.
Oh, you're right, 7:57. 56. Almost 8. Our first item, just to get out of the way, we have a set of minutes from our December 20th meeting that were sent out and on the share site. So is there a motion or any changes?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes of December 20th signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Abstain. Yes, actually, and Brian abstained too. So both of you were.
I
You weren't
Okay.
there.
Well, you have to abstain because
Yeah, you weren't there.
If I watched that show.
Yeah.
I know you think it would count, but it doesn't.
I know. So we are 6-0, 2 abstentions.
Good job, though.
I know.
I know.
See?
Yeah, you.
He's paying attention to all that's going on. All right. So are there any questions that needed to be followed up from our previous meeting? And at this point, I also want to talk, the school board met last night. I don't know if you noticed it, the presentation on the school district. As I got to the end, I'm like, where'd it go? There were some changes, because I just got those tonight as well. So they did, based on discussion of, at the budget committee, where we did not support the fund for teachers to bring on if there's an unexpected need for teachers, and that we had said that we would prefer seeing additional money placed in the building fund because there's certainly some concerns there. So based on the input that from our last meeting, that's exactly what they did last night. They removed that warrant article for a fund for staffing and added $50,000 to the building fund, and so that's why you saw that change tonight. I think that's the only thing that changed.
Was there any update on the transportation contracts?
I'm not aware of any update in the transportation fund. So that's still a pending savings or not. Because that was one of the things that we had, there was a motion to reduce it by the estimate of the savings, and it failed because there was a preference to wait and see if that savings actually materialized. So are there any other questions or?
There were a couple other differences between the school budget presentation that you had emailed and what was just shown.
Yes. The school district updated some of the figures.
Yeah.
Like
retirement
was added, and the tax impact. So when Corey went through the numbers, he discovered that kindergarten aid had not been added in, so that lowered the tax impact of the base budget and the default budget. There was a slight change in calculations for the teacher's contract, so that increased by a penny. The other two stayed the same. So there were some, when the school district went through it, they found some additional changes they made, and then, again, the action that they took last night changed it.
Okay. So back to the transportation, though. When do we expect that timeline? Will that be done before deliberative or by deliberative? So we can expect to have, if there's additional savings, a motion by the school board to reduce it appropriately?
All right, so on the main budget, which is Article 1.
We're doing the school first.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, I was going to do the school first. We can do the town first?
No, that's cool. I
Okay.
missed that memo.
So the number that the budget committee came up with is $22,865,429. Again, the revised tax impact is 36 cents. And if there are other places that you want to make changes to, this would be the time to offer up those motions. If not, I will entertain a motion to recommend our budget.
I'll make a motion to recommend Article 1.
Okay, the motion's been made by Jen. Is there a second? It's been made and seconded by Rob. Further discussion?
I know we discussed last week the desire to have a unanimous vote, and I maintain that I'm still not going to do that. I've stated before that I believe that there are lines that should have been reduced that weren't. And since my reductions I would be one of those people who believes that this number could have been below the default number. So I'm comfortable with the default number more than I'm comfortable with the proposed budget. I think the default provides more than enough to meet the school's mission. Again, since I believe it should be even lower than the default more than enough. So I cannot in good conscience vote in favor of the higher proposed budget just because that's what the budget committee came up with. Because I think the budget committee could have been tighter in its recommendation.
Well, that's all well and good. So do you have a motion for a reduction?
I've made my motions and they've all been rejected. So I'm just saying right now, I'm voting against the proposed budget and I'm explaining why.
So again, I want to, because Brian asked me this question earlier up on stage about the discussion we had at the end of the last meeting. The budget committee takes action as a whole. And the process, we are required by law to bring forth a budget. So the process of this committee is for individuals to make motions, and the whole committee discusses it. And whatever the vote is, that becomes the outcome of the committee. That is the result of the process of the committee. So when we get to the end, it's not about my vote didn't pass, your vote did pass, or whatever. It is the process, and is this the result of that process?
That's not the question. The question is, do I think this is the best budget to meet the mission? We have never had and in my history, a unanimous vote on this, and I will not be bullied into doing it this time.
So I'm not asking for a unanimous vote, but it has to be a budget that is approved by a majority of this
And I'm not
body.
saying that. And if
So if you think that there's a place that needs to be cut, then please make that motion.
if it passes, then I don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about it. We've been in this situation with the town before where we couldn't come to an agreement. We spent 45 minutes looking for a number that we could all come to. I fully expect this to pass. I'm just not going to have it pass with my support. So I don't think it's the best
So
number.
you don't have any recommendations?
My recommendations were to reduce the special services department by quite a bit, and that was rejected because we believe that we should have a little extra or a lot extra for unforeseen events. I'm not going to change anybody's mind on that. There are other issues I'm sure that I could come up with that I'm not going to change anybody's mind on. So I am perfectly comfortable voting no.
So just to clarify, because I feel very strongly about the special services piece, I don't think there's anything extra budgeted in there, right? We budget based on the kids we know. So
No.
in my opinion, well, hold on, just let me finish. In my opinion, we're irresponsible if we know we have kids who need services today and we don't budget for that. That's irresponsible finance.
No, irresponsible finance is budgeting 100% when historically we need 89 to 92%. It is irresponsible to ask our taxpayers and our neighbors to knowingly pay more than is necessary. And so I will not do it.
So the responsibility of the district is to budget for those kids that exist
Do we
today.
or do we not use a historical number?
Excuse me, I'm speaking.
Go for it.
Our responsibility as a budget committee is different than the district's, which is to look at history, to look at averages, and to make those adjustments. So in both cases, you're both correct.
And I respect that you have your position. I would just ask that you respect mine, which is clearly different than yours.
So the proposal was to reduce special services by $60,000. And that motion, is
Fair.
there another number you want to recommend?
I am comfortable voting no. I am comfortable. If I threw out $30,000, I still think you're $100,000 short. So what is my goal to come to the best? I can get you down to the default number, and then what? Then when the transportation comes in light, are we going to say, sure, we'll still take the reduction?
So as I look at this, 86, 90, 95,000, not counting transportation, which is a given, will be reduced. it was only $95,000 additional in reductions that were made and voted on. So if there's something that's not in this list, then I think it's important, and it's your responsibility to bring up a motion and have us discuss it and weigh in on it.
I've said I've made my reductions. They've been through the process and not supported, and I'm okay with that because that is the process. But I'm also okay with it being passed without my support.
All right. Any further discussion? Are there any other recommendations that people would like to make?
I mean, I gotta say, I kind of agree with Carrie on this one. It's just, when you get this, when you're voted into this position, and you have a certain, you're voted, or they vote you for what you said, how you feel. If I don't particularly, I made recommendations too that didn't go through. I can respect that, you guys didn't agree with me, which is fine. But when it comes to something that's going to keep it, just keeps raising the taxes up and up and up every single year, and nothing ever changes. So if you vote for that, you're in essence voting for your taxes to keep going up, and I can't support that.
So again, I say, if this is an unsustainable budget, please make a recommendation for a reduction, and then let us discuss it and vote on it. Because otherwise, we didn't even come close to any additional recommendations. It was $95,000 beyond what we reduced for $240,000. So if there's recommendations that we haven't discussed, then let's discuss them. There's a motion on the table. All those in favor of recommending the Budget Committee's budget, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
And abstained. So the motion passes 6-0. The budget is recommended. All right, so the next item is Article 2, which is the collective bargaining agreement between the school district and the Litchfield Education Association. Is there a motion or a recommendation on this article?
We can make a motion to approve Article 2.
And there's a motion to recommend Article 2. Is there a second?
A second.
It's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Can I get clarification on the note that says staff member subbing will receive compensation? Is that staff member not currently
That'd be
being
a staff
paid?
member. Well, it'd be a staff member during their plan period or their free block.
So would they not already be eligible for the 6th period?
It would be, the 6th period would be much higher, I believe, if we went with the 6th period pay. I believe the rate is $13.75 an hour. 13 $13 an hour, which was in line with the regular sub pay, but you get a certified staff member who knows the students, who hopefully be able to keep the classes going.
So I guess it makes it sound as though people are not currently being paid to do that. Are we adding?
No.
No, they're not
No.
being paid. So if a colleague is not in class and you have a planning period, but you're asked to take that class, now you've just taken away from your planning period, and you've got to now go do that class, and at some other point on your own time or whatever, do whatever you were taken away from. So I think this is just a way to compensate and recognize you're taking staff away from what they're supposed to be doing to help when there's a colleague that isn't there.
And to be clear, it's what they're supposed to be doing on their time. It's their plan period that's coming away.
I'm having a hard time picturing this logistically. We have somebody who's out all day, and we
Somebody's
just
out all-
string a bunch of
So-
special periods
So
together?
you might have me first block, second, third, fourth block, different teachers during their plan period, but you have certified educators who know the kids in the classroom, rather than a sub who doesn't know the kids, does not know the topic potentially. So it's kind of a win-win for the district, in my opinion.
Okay.
And apparently, when I talked about the reduction in school days, in sick days, that was actually in a previous contract, and this just cleaned up the wording. I wasn't clear on that, but it was just wording that was cleaned up. That's actually from a previous contract that was approved. I think the last contract that was approved. Any other discussion?
And I think Jen brought it up last week, time we met, but I can't remember what the response was, that if $153,000 in the first year is bringing teachers to where we feel they should be, why is there such a large increase in years 2 and 3 when that one-time expense has already been incurred?
You have the 2% increase, which you don't have in the first year of the contract.
So there's no, it's just a step?
There's no step
Just
increase in the first year of the contract.
Okay.
And in the second and third year, there's a 2% step increase in the contract. And I assume some of that would also be attributed, as the staff's been here longer, you also have the longevity payment would be kicking in also for some staff, so that would keep it up there.
So, one of my concerns is, and I sent the previous minutes from deliberative session the last time the contract was discussed. One of the concerns at the previous deliberative session was trying to reduce, the majority of our costs are our salaries and benefits. And one of the things that gives us a hit every year is health benefits. This year was unprecedented. To be so low, and then because of a one-time credit, to be a negative is unheard of. Usually, the town last year had a 20% increase. One of the biggest hits we always take is health care. And once a contract is approved, we just take that hit. There's nothing we can do to mitigate it from year to year. Previous contracts, the goal has been to try to reduce that responsibility of the district and increase the responsibility of the individual employee. So the thing that concerns me is that the change in health care changes the percentage between the employee and the district in the wrong direction. I did a little calculation. It's almost neutral. There's no benefit to the district. If everybody took, I forget the choice plan, whatever, there's about an $82,000 benefit to the district in year 1. But then future increases, a majority of that increase now is on the backs of the district. And I can't support that. I can't tell the town of Litchfield, who for years has struggled with healthcare costs that are soaring out of sight, that this is a good plan for the district. I think it's a great plan for the employees. And I think the cost of living increases and the adjustments are great for the employees, because this is not about the employees that not being appreciated, but it's about going forward in cost increases and mitigating those out of control costs in the healthcare sector. So I can't support this because of the healthcare. I absolutely support the cost of living. I absolutely support the steps. But for me, that's a deal breaker, because I've seen for 25 years the impact that healthcare has had on budgets and how it detracts from being able to fund other parts of the budget because the healthcare costs are so high. So for me, that's my major concern.
And
So-
sorry.
No, go ahead.
Just going to say the main hope over the life of the contract is the savings will occur with the switch to the yellow plan. That will
And
make it
I
work.
can't see any savings. Any future increase is going to be a majority on the back of the district. So I seriously don't see any savings to the district. The choice plan is neutral. It's the same cost to the district with the current green plan. The other plan, there's a tiny, like $100 savings. So if everybody chose that, it's like 82,000 savings the first year. There's no savings to the district. There's no savings to the district.
And just to make sure I'm getting this right, it would come with a change in healthcare usage as you switch to the yellow program. Is that correct, Mike? So the potential for savings is there, and that's why we want.
I still don't see how the change in usage in the future of either of those plans is going to have a financial benefit to the district. I don't.
Anything to add?
Mike?
Are we allowed to comment? So I think that this really represents a very significant shift in the way we think about the use of our healthcare dollars. The current plan that the teachers have, most teachers are taking the green plan. So you walk in with your card, put down a small copay, and then you can receive services anywhere that you want to receive those services. You can go to one provider that will charge, you could go for one lab, and it could be $1,000 more to receive that lab service at that lab than it is at a lab right down the street. There's no thought process by the individual member as to saving money. It's just getting the lab work done. When you shift to a consumer-driven plan and the employee then has skin in the game, dollars in the game, it causes them to say, gosh, can I go to a different lab and save money? Because then you're factoring in the money that you have. And even with the choice fund, it's an allocation you're provided that you are managing in an attempt to reduce the cost. And so it really does result in a significant mind shift for the employee and becoming aware of how those healthcare dollars are being spent. And then over time, that change in behavior should result in a reduction of cost for everybody, both the employee and the employer. So the taxpayers ought to receive some benefit from this in the future. When we consulted with School Care, so School Care is a coalition of NEA New Hampshire, but also School Boards Association is involved, the School Administrators Association is involved. So it's really a coalition trying to use smart healthcare dollars and make sure they're spent well. When we consulted with them, they indicated that when districts shifted from a green to a yellow, that typically there was an increase in the employer contribution, often kept neutral, not always, but often kept to a neutral status like you've observed in the first year, because the real benefit comes long-term with the shift in behaviors, right? And so that's where we believe there will be some real long-term savings. And part of what I think the board is asking the Budget Committee to recommend this is to really see that long-term piece. Unless I'm mistaken, I think there are 3 collective bargaining groups in town. You've got your police department, you've got the teachers, and you've got the support staff association. This is the first time that one of those bargaining units has accepted a consumer-driven plan, having deductibles for the employee. That's a huge shift. And it's also the largest unit that's made that shift. And so therefore, I think it paints the greatest savings potential to come down the road. And I'm just trying to provide some thought process in terms of the advice that we had received and the conversations that we had, because it takes 2 parties to agree to a situation, a change like this.
Yeah, my understanding is there is a deductible for the police already, and that in previous years, both the town and the school district have been trying to get closer to that 80-20. Last year, when we saw a 20% increase in healthcare with the town, the police actually asked to renegotiate that because they wanted to help lower the town's costs. And so they ended up with the 80-20 plan. Previous contracts have been whittling down from 90-10, 87, 85, 82. And for us to jump back up to 89 and 93, we're going in the wrong direction. I just think we're going in the wrong direction. Changing a plan notwithstanding, we're going in the wrong direction. And that concerns me because, like I said, I would like to think there'll be savings in the future. I would like to see those savings first and then negotiate in the future some additional benefit. But healthcare we've been hit at for 20 years, and I just can't.
I would echo your sentiment in that when I first saw the agreement, I was not excited. When you add, we have a lot of excellent teachers, and my exposure to them has been very limited. I've only had 3, and all 3 of them have been amazing. So, but at the same time, we're giving substantial increases in, some of the teachers are going to be seeing 4-step increases. We're seeing sizable step, when you factor the step increase and the COLA increase, that's a sizable increase annually. And then you're adding onto that a significant increase in the employer contribution. I think that's a hard sell because people are going to see, wow, these teachers are getting sizable increases in their salaries and we're picking up more of their health care. I think it's great that we're looking for ways to improve the long term. I think it's great that we got to reduce some of the day hours that could be accumulated. But I think for the size of the increases that we're going to be seeing in salaries, that we should have seen more given back to the district.
I'd just like to remind everybody that the increases also come with deductibles. So part of the increase is negotiation. They're paying deductibles, higher deductibles. The increases have to be there to help offset.
maybe that would have been helpful if I had seen what their asks were and what our asks were, and I could say, well, that was crazy, we shouldn't have even been negotiating that, or, wow, I can't believe that that was all they asked for, that's awesome. But not knowing, being party to the negotiation and only seeing the end result, I would think that for what we're offering, we should have seen a reduction somewhere else.
Yeah, and the existing plan, there were deductibles, they were obviously much smaller, they were $250 and $500 deductibles. And I know that was a concern the last go-around, which is why there was the slow incremental change, to give people a chance to ease into that. But again, there's no incremental easing into this. It goes up from 82 to 89, and that's pretty significant. So that I just can't tell the taxpayers that their taxes are, that it's going to be a benefit to them in the future, where I know historically healthcare has been a huge problem.
I was on the negotiation team, so I think I have a handle on this. But Holly's behind me if I don't. So, in order to make the top priority of the school board was to get a reduction in healthcare costs and to switch from the green plan, which was not a consumer-driven Cadillac basically plan, to the yellow plan. In order to do that, we realize, and through negotiations, in our discussions with the LEA representatives, that's a big hit for a teacher to go from no deductible to potentially, a few $1,000s out of pocket up front, and then, it's a huge mind shift. So by raising our percentage, our contribution, we wanted to get a foot in the door, and then begin to kind of decrease our percentage of the premiums from there. It's the teachers are taking a big hit by switching from the green plan to the yellow plan, and we're thankful that they're willing to take that path with us. And so to kind of cushion the blow and make that transition more palatable and easier for our teachers, that's the reasoning behind the higher percentage.
If I could just clarify one point, the green plan does not have the deductible, so there is no deductible in green. There is a red plan that is offered that has a deductible.
Those deductibles.
But we have fewer than 5 employees who select that plan, because it's not structured in a way that makes it in any way incentive. They would pay more than if it's worth even taking the plan. So that's why shifting from the green-red suite to the yellow-orange suite, and we chose to just go with yellow, that's why we made that shift, where there are some more significant deductibles.
Oh, you're right, yeah, red plan. Yep, thank you for correcting me.
You're welcome.
And can I just clarify, how many years of the unknown increase are we talking about? Because wow, it's late. The agreement, is for the 3 years. So right now, for this coming year, we have the reduction in the rate. So it's 2 years where we don't know what that percentage increase is going to be.
It's neutral the first year.
Is there a maximum guaranteed increase in those plans?
Is there a maximum guaranteed increase?
Not that they give us a fund.
Not that far out.
Yeah.
We get it. We get a maximum, but it's not until next fall for budget purposes. But they will not project in the future, because one of a key component of it is usage. So if usage goes up, if there are a couple of catastrophic situations that take place, that drives the usage side of the coin, and that's all unknown. Hopefully, it won't come to bear.
So at the end of the day, the private sector has moved to these type of plans like a decade ago. And it does reduce, from my perspective, employer costs in the private sector. So I believe it will change behavior. My problem with the contract is I don't know, the total dollar amount spread out over 3 years is so significant. Without really strong communication, people are going to walk into that voting booth, and I worry that this won't be supported. So,
yeah, I'm not opposed to switching the plans at all. I think it's, like you said, it's something that the private sector is going towards. My concern only is that split, that 82 split is now going to 89, and the 89 is going to 93 or whatever. That's my only concern. I think it's a great plan. I think the COLAs and I think the steps, I did out some calculations. Even with the deductibles, no employee loses money. They all still make more each year. So I don't
know that I would want our employees to lose money. Like,
that's what I mean. No employee loses money at all from if they were not to change, and if they were not to change the 83 to the 82 to the 89. Like, I looked at that calculation, and the amount you have to absorb now with either $1,000 or $2,000 or $2,000 or $4,000 deductible. When I did that calculations, I looked at the bachelor's end, I looked at the master's plus 30, and it was just based on the one yellow, I forget what it was. But I tried to do that to see, okay, what's that financial impact to this imaginary person at the B level and the imaginary person at the master's 30. And in every case, the staff member made more, even after having to pay a larger deductible. So I don't understand that split changing so dramatically. And maybe then I could see, as we've done in previous years, that sort of transitioning. So maybe we started 89 because it's we started 89 because it's a shock. But then maybe there's a scale back to 85, back to 82, because in future years there's savings to the district, but also maybe there's not, because like I said, historically, every time we do a contract, we think we're saving money in healthcare, and I've yet to see it. Except for this year. This is the first year we've seen a savings in healthcare. So that's my concern is I've seen 20 years of it not happening. And I'm concerned. I'm not concerned with the increases. I'm not concerned with the changing of the plan. It's that percentage that concerns me.
Just, as a member of the negotiation team, I feel like in order to get that change, that switching from green to yellow, we negotiated an increase in our percentage. And so, we got our foot in the door, and it was, maybe the door's not as wide open as we might have liked, but it's a give and take, and that's what we landed on, and that's what we brought to you.
Any other thoughts from anybody who hasn't spoken yet?
And ultimately, it's going to go to the voters, and the voters are going to decide. I mean, I'd rather it not be coached as support the teachers, vote our contract, because I know I support my teachers regardless of whether or not I vote for this contract. In fact, that argument just ticks me off because it implies that questioning means I don't support, which is baloney.
This is dollars and cents.
It's all it is. And my concern is when we've seen the increases we've seen in the last year, some people still very upset about the fire station, and now you're putting this contract in. We've got another contract coming up. Eventually we're going to have the services contract. It's a lot. And then we have talk of, people wanting a new school, and we want increases here. And at some point, some people are going to say, like, the well is dry. We just cannot continue to see increases of this size. And so I'm not going to argue that the teachers aren't worth it. Some of those teachers I'd love to give double that, but based on the wording, I have to give everybody's treated the same, right? The rock stars and the not so rock stars. But I would love to give some people more than that, but my concern is we have a lot of people in town who are already struggling, and are they going to say, I want to add, it's basically doubling the increase from the school, right? It's the same amount as the school increase. And then, like Jen said, it's $1 million in 3 years on a $22 million budget. That's a lot of money. And it's a big sell. And so, there's nothing saying you can't do it. There's nothing saying it can't be done. I don't think it's going to be easy. But, I mean, if that's what you were comfortable with and wanted to put forward, I wish you the best.
I think the other sticker shock is going to be the 44 cents on the tax rate. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of recommending Article 2 on the LEA contract, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstain.
What?
So,
Oh, I thought you were abstaining.
so all those in favor?
4.
4. So the motion fails 4-4. So there's no recommended, it's not recommended due to a tie vote.
And it has nothing to do with support or not support of the teachers. Just
No.
let's be clear of that.
There's only 7 of you.
There's 8 of us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Which 4 the voted for? That's 3. Who's the 4?
4. 1, 2.
Oh, John. All right. Thank you.
He'll get
Alright.
gift baskets afterwards.
Article 3, shall the district vote to raise and appropriate $28,490 to be added to the operating budget for the purpose of funding salary and benefits for a part-time enrichment tutor, LMS Litchfield Middle School. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve that
A
one.
motion to recommend. Is there a second? It's been made and seconded by Rob. Any further discussion?
Thank you for bringing that forward as a warrant article. I've been asking for several years, and I appreciate finally being able to vote on it for a warrant article. I think it's well needed. It's high time, and I thank you for giving me me and the community as a whole the opportunity to weigh in on that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of recommending Article 3, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstain. So that passes 7-1-0. It's recommended 7-1-0. All right, Article 4, which is the
The math tutor.
$8,490 added to the operating budget for the purpose of funding salary and benefits for a part-time math tutor at Litchfield Middle School.
Motion to recommend.
Is there a second? It's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Again, another position that I think is much needed at the middle school. Whether it's because the curriculum which needs to change or what, but I think it's much needed to help these kids in their math. So.
Any further discussion?
Well, I just want to say, as someone who's kind of an outsider to the school, not having kids in the district, it has been very helpful, just the presentations from the school and everything, because we rely, I rely on that to know, is this something, does it make sense, is the need there? So thank you.
Anything else? Hearing none, all those in favor of recommending Article 4, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstain? So recommended 7-1-0. And the last one is the, this is the Building Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund established in 2004. This was originally going to propose at $50,000 based on feedback that this committee gave at the last meeting. The school board did decide to remove the other article and add $50,000 to this article due to the potential maintenance projects that are in the future. Is there a motion to recommend Article 5?
Motion to recommend.
That is made by both Rob and Jen. So
Go ahead. I'll
Okay.
second.
All right, so Jen seconded.
Well, actually, can I ask, I have a question on that one.
Any discussion?
So is this for the establishing a fund for maintenance of the buildings? Because
We already
Yes.
have a
So
fund.
this fund already exists, and every couple of years, money is added to it for catastrophic things. So a roof fails, because right now, the middle school roof isn't under any kind of coverage.
Will this money be used by, say none of those repairs are needed at that point? Can they say, well, this fund has this much money in it, and can they take from this fund to to fund other things, or does
No,
this money
it
stay
is
just-
specifically restricted to building maintenance, and it's very narrowly defined. So that's all this goes to.
That roof alone would far exceed what's in that fund right now.
No, I understand. I'm just saying if there was if a point where the money wasn't spent, would it get used towards something else?
No, it
You know,
stays in the
like
fund.
robbing Peter to pay Paul. Like, if we put money in here, it should be used for this instead
Right.
of going somewhere else.
They'd have to go back to the voters and ask them.
Yeah.
But it's an inclusive roof.
So by law, they can't use it for that,
Boilers,
or anything else.
it's all
Right.
maintenance.
So it's building maintenance
Yeah.
and stuff
Yep.
like that.
So it's been made and seconded.
Made and seconded.
Any other discussion? Any other questions?
And this would come out of the unassigned, what leftover funds, right?
End of the year unassigned fund balance. Yep.
Is this the only thing that's being asked to use unassigned fund balance?
They have a priority list of repairs that they have set aside for the end of the year to
Right.
see, but this is specifically for not those things.
Okay. Well, hopefully we'll see a master plan at some time in the near future.
All right, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor of recommending Article 5, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? So this passes 8-0-0. All right, we need to move on to the town. So, town operating budget
You're on there, John.
is $6,757,953. And
No, I think it's under a different one. I think it's
277,953. Is there a motion to recommend the budget, which is Article 1?
Article 2 with no article.
Second.
Oh, the article.
Been made and seconded?
Guys are so quick.
So have all the insurances and other stuff been finalized and reflected?
Yes. And actually, this is Article 2, not Article 1, sorry.
Yep.
This is 8 cents on the tax rate. This includes the first bond payment for the fire station. This includes everything.
I will say, I was impressed that we were able to, with the bond payment, keep the impact as low as it was. I do think there are areas that, or deals that the Board of Selectmen made that I wish we'd had oversight on, 21% raise and paying people way above their pay grade, the maximum allowable salary, but unfortunately, we've been committed to those. So I struggled on this as to whether or not to support this budget, but in one respect, I think we've made the commitment, and the people to be held accountable would be the Board of Selectmen who signed those deals. So I'm going to end up supporting it, even though I don't want to. But I don't want to because I'm not happy with the deals that we've been assigned to.
Okay. Any further discussion? Actually, oh yeah, there was a motion.
Yeah,
Yep.
Oh gosh, it is late. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of recommending Article 2, the main budget, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstain? So that's recommended 7-1-0. Article 3, the police contract, $37,909, year 1, estimated tax impact 4 cents. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It's been made. Is there a second?
Second,
Any discussion on the police contract?
I think it's a good move in the right direction in some, it sounds like in this one, there were concessions made relative to long-term liabilities that I approve of. I think it's a good first step because I realize we can't take a giant leap all at once, so I'm hoping that we continue to see that trend move forward. But I think it's a good first step.
Yeah, this does reduce our liabilities, and that was one of their main goals, especially with the concessions in healthcare last year, so. Any further discussion?
I agree with what she's saying, but personally for me, it didn't go far enough, so I can't support it.
I'm taking the long game look.
And that's the way the board's taking it too. It's a long play. And the union's been very helpful, and they've been
Yeah. But I agree
very
with you.
agreeable.
In practicality, I agree with you. I wish it had gone farther. Pragmatically, I think it's,
Well, I understand, I'd never win that argument, it's just, I gotta
no,
vote my conscience.
absolutely, I hear you. I hear you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of recommending Article 3, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstain? All right, recommended 7-1-0. And let's see. Oh, I just realized it goes from Article 3 to Article 5. Oh, no, Article 4, there we are. Health Service Agencies. I was like, where the heck did they go? Health Service Agencies, so again, they're doing it a little different this year. They're asking for $25,000, and then there's going to be a committee that determines where it's best put to use. So the tax impact is 3 cents. Is there a motion to recommend Article 4?
Motion.
I'll second it.
You did what you asked.
You did do it. I don't like this anyway. I view it as charity, charity support, taxpayer supported charity. I know there's different views on that. I get that, in my opinion, but I like the fact that there's a committee that will review the requests.
And there's a resident representative, you want to join?
Don't tempt me, okay? Because at that point, I become practically a full-time employee of the town of the school.
Can you just read it again, because it's different than what we had sent
Yeah,
out?
it's changed, yeah.
So to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to support human services and health agencies that provide services to the town of Litchfield. If approved, a committee consisting of the welfare director, health officer, and 1 resident will review funding requests and submit recommended funding amounts to the Board of Selectmen for approval.
Because the total ask was 40-something, right?
Right, so this is at only $25,000.
Only
And that's been the argument in the past for it not being in the budget, that this is something that the voters should weigh in on and be able to vote on.
That's the reason I like it, even though principally I don't like it, but practically I like it because it does provide some input. You're not saying, here are all the requests, we'll fund them each at a quarter. Like, there's actually going to be a thought process behind it, and you have to review it, and there's going to be some input and feedback. So I like the process of it a lot better than add them up, divide by, multiply by 10% or whatever it is. So, process-wise, I like it.
Any further discussion?
So I would just say I prefer this to be in the budget because I think it's much clearer, and I think it's a very small segment of people who are going to be now making that decision. So I want this money for the folks who need it, so I will vote in favor of it. I don't prefer it in a warrant article.
I'd prefer to, if I want to donate to charity, to do it on my own and not have it come out of my taxes at all. So I'm voting against it.
Yeah, and so these are nonprofits, but these are nonprofits that provide a service to citizens of Litchfield. So instead of charging us for the service, they ask for contributions towards those services.
Don't they get compensated by the state in some manner too?
Nope.
One of those, I believe they do.
As nonprofits, they may receive grants, but they're not supported by any state or federal agency.
Okay.
Do most towns pay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Do they pay all, or do they pay a how do other towns handle that situation?
I think it varies by
It does vary, and I think some
sometimes
towns do
pay
it
it all,
like we're
sometimes,
recommending. And
yeah.
All right.
towns just pay it.
Well, then you end up on everybody's mailing list, and I tell you how I know that.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of recommending Article 4, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Aye.
And abstain. Okay, so 6-0. Article 5, Town Earned Time Accrual Expendable Trust Fund. This is $50,000 from the unassigned fund balance at the end of the year. No tax, no amount raised, additional amount raised for taxation. Is there a motion to recommend Article 5?
Motion to recommend?
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
Is there any way that they can put that, it's not, yes, there's not a tax impact, but you're taking money that's already been paid. So it makes it, when you look at it, it does make it look like this costs nothing. And when money doesn't, you can't take $50,000 and have it cost nothing.
So that's something we can explain, like a deliberative session, but in terms of putting the wording in the warrant article, there's very specific legal ways to write these, and you can't put something like that in there.
So the way the warrants, as I understand it, are, for next year's taxes, there is no additional impact, which is accurate because the money has already been raised
Right,
in
it was
previous
impacted
years.
back into
So there's no
2018.
additional increase as a result of this,
Right, but
because that
when you
increase has
make
already
it-
been affected.
I get it, it's,
Yeah.
you can't change it, it's just,
Yeah.
it makes it look like, to people who don't understand is, oh, this doesn't cost me anything, sure.
I'd like to think that hopefully long-term impacts associated with contract negotiations and changes moving in the right direction will help drive down that number over the long term.
And this is something we explain at deliberative session. Pretty much every year, it comes up and we say, this means this money doesn't necessarily go back to, although in the town, it doesn't anyways, because it goes into the town fund.
It goes on the unassigned, but we typically use it to offset taxes at the end of the year too, so.
Not all of it,
It's always
though.
offsets.
Yeah.
We had the same example happen with the fire department. The first year, the fire department was a zero impact, right? There was no cost. The real impact is this year. During deliberative, we were very clear on what that was going to be. This year, we're going to get the building started, well, it's not going to be any impact this year, but the following year, this is what we think the estimated impact's going to be. So we try to be, we do try to be upfront about it.
I thought you were very clear on that one.
Yeah. Well, I think we try to do that for all the articles. But this is not a reoccurring warrant either, so next
No.
year, we're going to have to come back again and ask for another 50,000.
But you did last year. I feel like
last
we've
year.
I
seen
shouldn't use
this
this
for
one as
4
an example, but
years.
Same.
at the end of the day, we're trying to deal with a liability too, but
That's what I'm saying.
most funds don't come back multiple years in a row.
If the goal is to drive down that long-term liability, hopefully we'll start seeing
Yeah,
that
The need for this amount of money will
right.
hopefully decline.
But I echo the same, what you were saying, Brian, and I have to admit, when I voted last year, I kind of just went, oh, okay, zero sounds good, all right. But now kind of knowing more, being more informed about it, I mean, I'm all up for any other way of getting that message out there. I think another example of this would be just how you explained at the hearing today and then at deliberative, but also, people are all over Facebook, wherever it is. I think, I will take it upon myself, but I also feel if we feel that the way that we have to legally put things is not as transparent and not everyone goes to deliberative, then perhaps we need to put some time and effort into getting that message out there so it is clear and understandable to the voters and they know exactly what they're supporting or not supporting.
It's the way they go about it, and it's not just this zero thing, it's the,
There's a lot.
this only costs you 3 cents. Well, not really, because if it's 3 cents per average house is 350 grand, that's a lot more money than just 3 cents. And then, especially when, I like how it's added up at the end, where this, both the school and the town, all these budgets are going to basically end up costing me close to another, $350 a year. Every single year,
That's
these
tangible.
taxes, people can look at that and say, holy crap. Take the last how many years, and say, how many times have my taxes gone up and by how much? It's thousands.
Yep.
And that's not a small amount where 3 cents, 4 cents, 10 cents. And that's how you get away with pushing this stuff to people, because they only look, oh, it's only 10 cents.
Brian, to that point though, the deliberative presentation outlines all that and does give that end goal. So we publish that and we put it into the guide and all that, so voters have to understand the full impact. They have to do their homework too. You can't just go to the voting booth the day of election and have no idea what you're voting on and use these numbers, because they do have some real impact.
And I do agree with you that it's incumbent upon everybody to understand this stuff, but I can guarantee you half the people, if not more, don't. They don't know. They look at this little thing and says, oh, it's only going to cost me 3 cents or 4 cents.
And then they get
or
mad
10
when they
cents.
see their bills.
All right.
We
I
laugh, but
think
that's the
we do everything we try to do everything we can to get the message out.
Yep.
We broadcast every meeting we have. We try to put as much information out in both social and
Not
everything
taking
else.
any away from what you do. I agree with what you're saying. It's just how it's labeled.
Yeah, and this was voted on by the town, that this is going to be on these, and what it is the incremental increase. So it's not something we can change or clarify in the warrant article itself. All right, any further discussion on Article 5?
I'm trusting the Board of Selectmen that they need this money.
Hearing
much.
none? All those in favor of recommending Article 5, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
And abstain. So 71-0, it is recommended. Article 6 is the Technology and Communication Expendable Trust Fund. This was the discussion about the technology needs going forward, and there is a plan that they're reworking, and this is to start putting a little bit away for that.
For that, right. I mean, there's the telecommunications plan, which is the communication systems, that's one aspect of it. There's also the technology in general that has to get replaced on every couple, 4, 5, 6 years. So this is the fund to help kind of offset that and help us save for it in the future.
So what's the ballpark that you're trying to achieve? Like, total cost?
So just the communication system alone, we're looking anywhere between $750,000 to $1 million.
That's just insane.
I hear you. But
Which is
remember,
why you want to whittle away.
No, the reason I ask that is because then I could be more comfortable with 50. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I think that 750 to $1 million is just insane for a town our size, especially when you consider that's 1/6 of the town budget.
Mm-hmm.
There ought to be ways in the development and advancement of technology that we should be leveraging cost reductions that should be. I mean, yes, new technology comes out, but that means that technology is getting less expensive as a whole.
The interesting thing about communications in this town is that we can go into collaborative systems, but we're in a hole, and those systems don't cover us. And we have to make the investment to put the
We need a
equipment
dome.
here. We're in a dome. We are in a dome. But again, it's an estimate, and we're trying to figure out what the right path is. Today we have 3 disparate systems. We're trying to go into one single system to control, to help to do both police, fire, and highway. So
Okay.
we're trying to work that all so that we can get,
So is that the 750 to $1 million, like all 3 systems
it's all
combined
3
one?
systems. Yeah, it's all 3 systems. Yeah.
See, to me, that makes 50 more palatable, whereas I'm like, good God, that's a lot. But if I'm contributing towards potentially $1 million, well.
And don't forget, there may be opportunities for grants. We're
Right.
working through all that today. The plan we had in place, we put together several years ago. A lot of things have changed, and we're revamping it. Technology costs, although you think it should be getting cheaper, no, it's getting more expensive. But, we're working through it. Again, this is to deal with some of the lower hanging fruit stuff that we have going on. There's some, handhelds that could be replaced and those kind of things that we have to get through before we even replace the bigger system. And I think the intent is to come back with a warrant article that does address the whole system in a different way. And it may be less than what I just said, but that's what those vendors are telling us.
Right.
And until we actually get all our requirements out and relay it all back out, we don't know for sure.
From that perspective, I think it makes sense to start chipping away at it. I mean, because it's not going to be, if you're saying 750 to $1 million, it's not going to be less than 500 probably, or 400, and 50 goes towards it, right? So it's like.
So we had our discussion ahead of our motion, so is there a motion?
I think, did I say motion? I motion to recommend.
Okay.
Second, just make it formal.
I thought we did it already.
No, I have no idea.
Any additional discussion?
Is this going to be a yearly thing, or is it just like a?
I think it's part of the schedule you're going to develop, right?
It's part of the schedule. If we come back next year with a more finite program and we start, addressing some of the lesser cost items, we may ask for more, but I don't know for sure.
But is it going to go into your budget, or is it going to be in?
It'll stay in
a
this
trust
fund.
thing?
It's going to stay in this fund, at least as far as the replacement program.
Yeah, this is another one of those funds that the money is set aside and can
For just
only be
that.
used for that one purpose.
Right, I guess, like next year, when you're like, okay, I might need this or this, is that going to go into your town budget? Now, obviously, if you have the money in there, you have money, but that's not going to go very far from what you're saying. So, are you get the following the amount of money that you need to do this project? Is that going to come out of the town budget, or are you going to keep asking to fund like a?
I think it's going to depend on the timing, but as I said earlier, if we're coming back for a system replacement, we'll probably come back with a big program and ask the voters for the funding as a separate warrant.
But that funding might be offset by this?
The fund may be offset by that too, yeah. If there's money in here, I mean, here's an example. We had one piece of equipment that failed, right? It cost us $13,000 to replace it. We didn't have that. We had to go scrounge the money up and take away from other things. This is one of the ways to deal with that problem.
So we do not currently have a fund for this?
No.
No, this is not.
This is going to
This is a brand new
establish it.
established fund.
So if
It was the first
a
amount
UPS
in.
died or a server died, you'd have to find
It
funds?
comes out of the budget.
Right, so right now there is nowhere for an emergency failure of
Right.
something. So this would help cover that.
Right.
And quick ship and anything else.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of recommending Article 6, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstains?
Psyched about it, but aye.
So that is 800. And then the last one is Article 7, which is the land purchase, $90,000 to purchase a parcel of land described as map 30, lot 1 on Hillcrest Road for the purpose of making ingress and egress safety improvements, the transfer recycling facility and highway garage, and provide for future expansion of operational needs. This is also coming from unassigned fund balance, no additional amount to be raised by taxation. Tax rate impact for 2019 is 0. Is there a motion to recommend?
Motion to recommend?
Second.
It's been made and seconded. Discussion?
Now, I think one of the things that was mentioned last week that we didn't hit on in the hearing is that were there not state funding that might be tied to the project?
There may be, yeah.
And
Well, the
our
funding would be
contribution, right, but we would be responsible for 20%-ish of it, and the
Yeah.
purchase of this property goes towards that percentage.
No, the purchase of the property is the purchase of the property.
All right.
The work to clear the fields, to put the road
Okay.
in, to change Hillcrest.
But
would be
you wouldn't
funded.
have to worry about eminent domain
Correct.
issues and other legal issues, and that hill sucks.
It does.
So,
We've had quite a few near accidents.
yeah, that mirror just isn't angled quite right. Just,
And in a snowstorm, you can't see anything.
so, I believe it.
Is this also to expand the transfer station itself?
So, I mean, the issue is that it will give us the ability to do it if we have to do it. Right now, we don't have any need at this point, but again, we're trying to deal with the public safety part of coming off that road.
That hill's dangerous.
Any other discussion?
Now, am I correct that it goes in the order, so like,
Mm-hmm.
if we only have, because if we're saying 50 here, 50, 90, so we're expecting to have, you're betting that we're having at least 140.
In our unassigned, yeah, we could. Remember, the unassigned's already been calculated. It's not
Yeah.
what's left over this year. That's what's in our
It's like
savings
2.5% or something in
Yeah.
the budget, so it's
Yeah.
a sizable amount.
account. Yeah, so we're fine.
I'm just wondering, because it goes in the order of that, so I'm just wondering
Yes.
why that's last.
It's not like the school budget
Yeah.
where it's whatever's left at the end of their school year. They already have a fund.
It's already there.
Yeah.
I want your money back, that's why. I'd love to have his money back too, but
Any further
We
discussion?
need float money, that's the problem.
no, you have to float the school.
Hearing none, all those in favor of recommending Article 7, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. So 800.
But I think when you do the deliberative, you want to highlight that there's a potential for state funds for redoing that current
And that
hill.
will be the town's
The
job.
town will present.
I would
So-
suggest that you highlight the state
We will
funds.
do that.
So that's what makes the hearing a little difficult, is trying to explain the
Right.
town and the school's warrant articles, because they're not ours.
Right.
At deliberative, they will be explaining their warrant
Right.
articles. The only thing we explain
Right.
is the budget. So, all right.
Just highlights the importance of going to deliberative.
Absolutely. We try to get people to understand how important it is to go to deliberative. People are like, well, I already know how I'm going to vote. No, it's not about knowing how you're going to vote. It's about going and making a difference. Because otherwise it can change. And what you wanted to vote for may not be there anymore.
Right.
All right, so we now have got all of our recommendations on the school and the town warrant articles. The last item is public input.
Oh, I said. Oh, I have. I thank your consideration and support and discussion, and I think it's a good process. Hearing us out. They may be coming in.
No, there's nobody.
No, they left?
No, they left.
Oh.
Imagine that. Some of it's not really worth saying. So for now, because it's late. A couple of things I wanted to, I guess, bring up is that I haven't paid as much attention to the contract as I probably should, so I apologize. But I know that when you start talking about the increase that teachers are going to receive, that because we have a veteran staff, a good staff, a lot of our teachers aren't on those steps. When you do calculations and you say they're not going to lose money because of changes in healthcare and those type of things, if they're at the top step, they don't get an increase other than the cost of living. So when you look at things, sometimes it gets misinterpreted about, oh, all the teachers are going to get this much money as you know, with their step and their cost of living. But a lot of teachers don't necessarily get that step. I mean, because they're at the top, so it doesn't matter. And I think by the end of this contract, more than half of our staff will be at the top. Again, I have fears about not having a contract because this whole having to straighten steps out because of the fact that we have teachers that really it would be to their benefit to be laid off in June and rehired in September, because then they would actually be hired at the rate that they have years experience instead of where they are in our steps. And it's just kind of a hiccup that's happened because of these non-contract years. And that's a little concerning because you don't want those kind of hiccups kind of mixed in, because then you have some people, again, who have more experience in Litchfield who are being paid less than a new teacher that's coming from another district because they're getting all of their years. Our teachers lost years and never got them back. So again, going with without a contract would be unfortunate next year, because then you would see more of that kind of stuff that we have to fix somewhere down the line, hopefully. The other thing about the insurance, I don't know anybody who loves insurance. I hate dealing with any type of insurance, so I avoid it at all costs. And so it was a good conversation. I felt like I learned some things sitting here. But one of the things that I think wasn't addressed is that if we're offering, the contract doesn't pass and we end up with this green plan as an option, and it's not what's being offered out in the industry, there are roughly 20 employees who get paid $1,000 to not take insurance. The district saves $24,000 an employee. So if those employees, just those 20, decided to take insurance next year, you're going to cost the district $480,000, because you have an insurance plan that is not equivalent to what's out there, right? So you're driving those people who are getting $1,000 from the district to not take it, to switch to the family plan here. And a lot of the insurances now are penalizing their other employees, so their husbands, for you not taking the insurance with your company. So they're not even seeing that full $1,000, because their spouse that they're taking the insurance through is now having to pay $50 a month because they have a spouse that's not taking the insurance through their plan. So there is a potential big cost there because we're offering something that is not available anymore out there in the private sector. And then you're going to drive people towards that, and so that's a liability that I think that you have to take into consideration, because I was shocked. That's a big number when you start to look at how that could impact a budget. And the last thing is, I just want to thank you for the time that you all put in and the school board puts in kind of going through all this numbers, but please don't feel like it's your responsibility to control the budget for our town. It's really the people of this town's responsibility to educate themselves on the matters and show up and vote for what they believe they want their community to be. You do a great service by kind of weeding through it, but it's really, and I urge everybody to get as much information about this and show up and vote on what they want to see their town and what their perspective and their view, and hopefully we end up with a budget that reflects the community, not any one individual or group within the community.
Thank you. And your point about the teachers being on the top step, that's true. They only get the cost of living, but every single one of the staff on the top step also gets that longevity, which is $1,500 to $2,500, and that's actually more than going from step to step. It's about $1,230 to go up the steps. It's $1,500 to $2,500. So actually, at the top step, you make out better.
Well, I tried to look at some of that, and honestly, I did it quickly while we were in the meeting, so I don't want to quote any numbers, but I looked at Hudson. Their step 13, which is the top of their scale, is like $20,000 more than ours. That's what, it was like, I was shocked, because again, my focus is teaching, my focus is my family, my focus is, so I'm not always paying attention to all those numbers. And someone had mentioned this longevity thing, and I said, let me see how we compare to other schools and what all this means. I was shocked. I looked at it and I was like, that's not what the top of our 15th step is, let alone a 13th step. So there was, I think it was between $15,000 and $20,000 difference
No, I would say something about though. How many businesses does Hudson have?
Listen, I'm with you. Let's figure out a way to raise the revenue in Litchfield. That would be great. Or come up with alternative ways to deal with the tax dollars so the burden isn't. I've been here for 20 years. My taxes have gone up every year. I'm with you. I understand. I don't necessarily want to see them go up every year, but I also don't want to see the cost, the value of my house go down. I don't want, when I finally decide that I want to move somewhere, I want to be able to sell my house because we have good schools.
So do I. But I want to be able to live in Litchfield as long as I can without being forced out by the property taxes.
I think that's, again, the creativity. I think there is something that has to be done. If
Right,
there's
but
a
when
new
you compare
company
to
moving in, right?
Hudson,
yep.
I don't know what they're going to pay in taxes and how all that's going to work out, but that's a nice thing. They're kind of tucked off the road as far as I can see. It shouldn't impact things. And that, you know.
The tax benefit may, for the building itself, is very little, but it's if they bring all their vehicles in town, so we have revenue from car registration and stuff like that, so. You know.
Will we get any from revenues that they make?
Other than property taxes.
Just and is that, see again, wrong time to ask these questions. Because again, like let's figure out ways.
I think it's a business tax, but I'd have to go look, but I think we're expecting revenues from car registration for now.
And you,
How many company vehicles they would register.
and you can see the impact of the revenue, the evaluations, because we brought on a bond payment, and the town is only going to increase 8 cents. But because of our revenue and because our base valuation now has increased, that helped wipe that out.
Yeah.
So you're right. We need those businesses. We need things that bring in revenue and improve the valuation.
Yeah, I mean, town revenues are definitely up, and it is driven by new car registration, which is kind of interesting. So that's what a lot of it.
All right. Any other?
Yeah, I just want to add something as far as the insurance. I don't have the exact numbers, and Holly's not here right now. But there is a cost savings that you really don't realize right away. The first part is the initial savings from the first year. And again, this year was an anomaly as far as what happened to the insurance rates. But all the dollars that were to be saved were put into the wages. We passed on through negotiation of the contract. Any savings from insurance was going to be passed along. So the union can do anything they wanted as far as how they want to do it. And what they want to do is steps. Going forward, those savings will be just in the premium cost. Because the green plan, which basically was a Cadillac plan, would cost us X amount more. Whether it be, I'm going to venture a guess, probably like 9%. John, you've seen the 50 contract, you know the differences. So there's a savings right there of about 9% per year that you really don't realize right now. The other part is, and Kerry said it, we would like to see more savings from the town, but at least they gave something. The same thing holds true as far as teachers. The only way to have gotten this other insurance to start the process of starting to save money is to give them a higher percentage. A higher percentage basically equates to the same amount of dollars. So to get in the door, like Tina said, so those numbers are skewed a little bit. Before it was 80-20 or 85-15. Now it's 92-8, say. I'm not sure exactly what the numbers are. But the dollar amount is the same. But the following year, you're going to get those savings in the insurance cost.
I feel like we were told that the last time we had insurance. There was a nice little chart that showed how it was going to level out, and didn't quite do that. It kind of was a straight line, but it went like this. But it's up to you guys to make it's up to you to make the pitch. As a voter, if I'm looking at this and I see, wow, my cost has gone up, and I see a sizable increase in wages, what did I get out of this? That's what the school board has to make the pitch. I, as a taxpayer, would feel that we gave away a lot and didn't get much back. It's up to you to make that argument.
So, just because that was one thing I asked specifically about was the cost of the plans. So the green plan at 82% is $8,154.90. The yellow plan at 89% is $8,154.18. We saved like 60 cents. So the cost is almost identical. The non-choice, it ends up the district saves $687. If all 120 staff members took that plan, it would be $82,440 a year. So we're really not, that 82,000 is not the
Right, but I think those numbers
397,000.
are based on this year's numbers, where
These are the numbers that came from Holly.
But I think they're based on this year's numbers and this year's usage.
Right.
Okay.
Hope is the plan will decrease in cost over time as the usage changes.
And, in 3 years, when we're up for negotiations again, once our teachers have 3 years of paying a deductible and paying attention to their consumer-driven plan, and it's a little easier, right, Robin?
The only teacher in the
And
room.
then it's a little
And there's two of
easier
us.
to say, okay, we'll give it, we'll pay a little a bit more of a percentage, and the goal was really to get to make this the big switch and to wrap our to get everybody on board with following up with the yellow plan.
And I do get that, and I think that is not a bad idea, but I would have said, okay, we're going to give you 89 in year one, then we're going to scale it back to 85, then we're going to get back to the 82 where we started from. Again, then we can see a little more concretely the savings, because I'm telling you, in 20-plus years, we get hit every year on health insurance. And we lament, oh my gosh, our budget's up so much, we can't provide these programs now, we've got to cut over here because we have to pay health.
And Cindy,
So-
just to point out, I didn't want to bring it up because apples to oranges, but the district I'm in, we went to a non-deductible plan, but it's a choice plan. And the district went up paying first year. And I think it's been 5 or 6 years now where I think it's between $100,000 and $200,000 a year the district's been getting back to offset. So, and I know more about ours than I know about my own, because like Robin, I just don't really pay attention to
Yeah.
insurance. But I do know there have been substantial savings because of the change in use, so.
So maybe that data is important to get some of the savings that other districts have seen using
And I
this
think
new
that's what
yellow
Mike was
plan or whatever.
Mike's basing his,
His experience. right?
hoping we're saving based on our cohort.
And I can't vote on a hope.
I know, but there's no-
because I haven't seen it ever happen.
But there's nothing else to do for
I guess,
healthcare.
as the eternal optimistic, it's a step in the right direction. It may not be as big a step as we'd hoped to see, which is true. I think, somebody said, I forget who it was, but if you leave negotiations and both sides are angry, you've made a good deal, and that's exactly what happened. It's a step in the right direction. It's not as big a step as we would have liked to have. But I think it's worth moving in that direction, and we're ready to, to explain and make our case to the voters. So I thank you for your support, and we'll let the voters decide. Did you want to say anything?
Cindy, I just have one other thing, and we'll again emphasize that they're deliberative, that even if we're level-based this year, because of state funding being reduced, the taxes could still go up, was it 34 cents?
24.
24 cents.
Yep.
So, to the budget committee, I'll just say, your taxes will go up every year, regardless. Your
Mhm.
taxes will go up because of the schools, your taxes will go up because of the town. That is life. There is not a town or a city or a piece of land you can go to that every year your taxes aren't going to go up. Plain and simple, that's possibly doing business.
Yep.
And just like I said when I was trying to went for elections, I'm going to do my bit, whatever I can do to make those costs be lower. You said they're going to go up. I agree with you. I don't want them to go up. And when you're looking at budgets versus the town, you guys are like three-quarters of the budget is basically you guys.
Okay,
Well, but it's-
you brought that up, it is. Our budget increase is, what, 1%?
Less than 1%.
Town's more than 8.
Yep.
Take away the fire department, it's still over 4. But because at the end of the tax cap, because their revenues increase, ours are decreasing, town's revenues increase, they spend more, and they continually spend more. And you continually accept their budget, because it's under the tax cap. But it's still 8 to 10% increase every year.
You said you, I don't.
Budget's really
simple.
All right,
I'm-
so
budget.
this is good, productive discussion, but it's 9:15.
Right.
We have
The night is
work
just
in the
starting.
morning. So our next time that we all get together will be Saturday, February 2nd at 10 a.m. here at Campbell High School, and that will be the town deliberative session. So we'll see everybody.
Do you have dates yet for February, March?
The only thing we have are deliberative sessions. So February 2nd, we will then meet after deliberative. If there are any changes that happen during deliberative, then we can act on those. Then on February 9th is the school deliberative. Same thing, we'll meet at the end of that meeting and act on any changes that happen during
But nothing
deliberative. Nothing else. Voting is in March, and then usually the new committee meets in April.
Oh, in the March meeting, is it?
Nope.
What, the second, but what time?
10 a.m. Saturday, 10 a.m., both the 9th and the 2nd.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. It's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, thank you, folks.